When I was writing my family history book, I did a lot of research on the Silvertown explosion of 1917. It was one of the biggest disasters and explosions to happen in London in the 20th century, but it was never widely reported, and it is still a story today which many people don't know about. The explosion happened when a factory making TNT for the First World War suddenly caught fire in an explosion, and actually the fireman the fire station was right opposite the factory, and the firemen who attended the fire, because they were so close, some of them died and many of them were injured. A lot of the firemen's homes were damaged, and these were in Fort Street in Silvertown, and eventually when my grandfather joined the fire service in 1922, he would actually go on to live in one of these houses which had been rebuilt after the explosion. There were lots of eyewitness stories which I managed to collect and research for the book, but again, as I said, the event wasn't widely reported at the time because of the First World War. They wanted to suppress stories about an explosion which claimed many lives in the East End of London. The government didn't want that information to get out, and a lot of the press was people couldn't read stories about this event, and many of them thought it was the Germans who had planted the bomb. They didn't realise it was an explosion due to the amount of TNT that was being produced. But a lot of people died and many people were injured, and parts of Silvertown were completely flattened. And this was like just such a major event, but it took 50 years for this story to actually come to light. And the firefighters and the men who died in the East End of London, in West Ham, in Silvertown, their funerals were attended by thousands upon thousands of people. The firemen were highly respected in the area because fires in the East End of London were a frequent occurrence, especially in industrial areas where there were a lot of chemicals and lots of wood factories, and places where they were manufacturing TNT and explosives for the war. Also people's houses, they had gas lights and candles still, and a lot of their clothing was made from flammable materials, as were their furniture. So fires were a very regular occurrence in a very busy industrial part of the East End of London. But I will tell you more about why the Silvertown explosion was so important to my family history, because it was the thing that inspired my grandfather to be a fireman.